Good evening, good morning, or whatever time it is wherever you are watching this from, because what I am about to share with you does not belong to any single time zone. It belongs to this moment in history, a moment that future generations will study, a moment that scholars will debate, a moment that diplomats will look back on and ask, did we see this coming? The answer, if you are watching this, is yes. You did. Today, we are diving into something that looks like a political headline, but is, in reality, a seismic signal. China has issued a warning to the United States, and before you skip past that sentence thinking you have heard it before, stop. Because this warning is different, not in tone, not in language, different in what it reveals about where the world is headed and who is going to lead it. This is not about one speech. This is not about one military drill. This is about a country of 1.4 billion people, led by a government with a century-long memory of humiliation and a 20-year plan for restoration, telling the world's most powerful nation, the old rules no longer apply. We are going to break this down, keynote by keynote, layer by layer, with the clarity it deserves and the depth that the moment demands. By the time we reach the end of this analysis, you will not just understand what China said. You will understand why it said it, what it means for every country watching from the sidelines, and what comes next. Stay with me. This is where history gets written. For decades, China's foreign policy was framed around the principle of keeping a low profile. The famous Deng Xiaoping doctrine of Tao Guangyang Wei, meaning hide your strength and bide your time. That era is decisively over. China has publicly outlined 4 red lines, including protecting Beijing's right to development, signaling a shift from quiet resistance to open declaration. What makes this warning different from previous warnings is not the content alone, but the confidence behind the delivery. Beijing is no longer issuing statements to manage tensions. It is issuing statements to define the rules. This is proactive strategic communication, and the world must read it as such. No single issue runs deeper in China's national consciousness than Taiwan. Beijing's statement following a recent Xi-Trump phone call singled out Taiwan as the most important issue in bilateral relations, urging the United States to handle the issue of arms sales to Taiwan with prudence. That word, prudence, is diplomatic language loaded with unmistakable weight. Washington approved arms sales to Taiwan worth as much as $11.15 billion in December 2025, one of its biggest ever, to strengthen the island's defenses and deter any military aggression by Beijing. China's warning is a direct response to this escalation. The Pentagon's annual report on China reiterated that United States defense assessments see the Chinese military developing capabilities that could enable it to fight and win a war over Taiwan by 2027. This is not background noise. This is the central clock ticking in the middle of a geopolitical room. The warning China is sending is not only military, it is economic, and perhaps even more dangerous for that. Over the whole of 2025, China's exports grew by 5.5% year-on-year in United States dollar terms, a strong indicator that exporters successfully weathered the storm of the trade war by diverting goods elsewhere. The largest beneficiaries of this shift have been emerging markets, in particular countries in Southeast Asia and Africa, with exports to Africa and ASEAN countries soaring 25.8% and 13.4% respectively from 2024. China is demonstrating that it can absorb American economic pressure and reroute global trade without missing a step. Trade with Russia has also boosted the use of the Chinese yuan in bilateral transactions, challenging the dominance of the United States dollar and signaling Beijing's ambition to reshape global financial norms. When a country rewrites trade maps while issuing strategic warnings, the world must understand this is not a bluff. This is a blueprint. Military exercises have historically been China's way of sending signals. Today, those exercises have crossed a crucial threshold from symbolic to operational. The PLA's Justice Mission 2025 exercises in December 2025 simulated a blockade of Taiwan's major port cities with 14 Coast Guard vessels and 18 warships, with exercise zones overlapping with Taiwan's territorial waters and stretching nearly the entire length of the Taiwan Strait. Weeks later, China mobilized thousands of fishing boats into floating barriers over 200 miles long in the East China Sea, formations so dense that cargo ships had to zigzag through them. This is not theater. These exercises demonstrated China's ability to use civilian infrastructure for military coercion, a playbook that renders traditional American deterrence calculations incomplete. Beijing conducted what it described as its largest Taiwan-focused military exercises to date, launching expansive drills that included live fire elements and simulated island encirclement operations. Perhaps the most underappreciated dimension of China's new warning is the coalition it is quietly assembling. Through the 25-year Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Agreement, China has significantly expanded its investments in Iranian infrastructure and energy, securing access to vital resources and enhancing Beijing's influence in the strategically critical Middle East. Beijing and Moscow have strengthened cooperation in military and technological arenas, particularly in advanced sectors such as semiconductors, drones, and cyber capabilities, with this partnership extending to space exploration and joint military exercises. At a military parade in Beijing, Xi displayed China's new weapons alongside Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, a deliberate projection of geopolitical solidarity. China is warning America not just with words, but with the company it keeps. This is a statement about the shape of a new world order that Beijing is actively constructing, one where American unilateralism has fewer and fewer places to stand. The final and most profound dimension of China's warning is the question it poses about American reliability. As China's economic, military, and technological power has grown, the United States' denial and anger have given way to a bargaining approach in which differences have to be managed with some sense of pragmatism. Experts are deeply divided. About one-third predict the relationship will become more antagonistic, another one-third more cooperative, and the remaining third expects it to stay much the same. That division itself tells a story. The Trump administration's reversal on its April 2025 tariffs in response to a bond market revolt made clear that United States administrations cannot always follow through on threats of rapid, across-the-board economic pressure. China watched that reversal carefully. Every time America hesitates, Beijing calculates. Every time Washington pivots, Beijing advances. China's warning is ultimately a mirror, and what it reflects is an America still deciding what kind of power it wants to be. What we have examined today is not simply a diplomatic warning between two superpowers. It is the clearest articulation yet that the world is entering a fundamentally new era. One where the rules of global power are being renegotiated in real time, and where the country that once set those rules is no longer the only voice in the room. China's warning to the United States signals a major shift because it is no longer reactive. It is strategic. It is backed by economic resilience, military capability, coalition building, and a long-term vision that extends decades beyond any single election cycle. America, for its part, stands at a crossroads between a world it once led by consensus and a world it must now navigate through competition. The most dangerous mistake any observer, student, or policymaker can make today is to read this as just another chapter in an old rivalry. This is not Cold War 2.0. This is something new, something more complex, something that demands not fear but clarity, not panic but precision of thought. The nations, institutions, and individuals who understand this shift, truly understand it, will be the ones who shape what comes next. The rest will simply be shaped by it. To every single person who sat through this analysis from the first word to the last, thank you. Thank you for choosing depth over noise, for choosing understanding over assumption, and for caring enough about the world you live in to actually learn how it works. Knowledge in times like these is not just power, it is protection. It is the compass that keeps you oriented when the winds of global change blow hardest. Whether you are a student, an educator, a professional, or simply a curious soul trying to make sense of a complicated world, you are exactly the kind of person this analysis was made for. Keep asking the difficult questions. Keep seeking the uncomfortable truths. Keep going where the conversation is harder, because that is always where the answers are. Good luck out there. The world needs thinkers like you now more than ever.